Welcome to Rich Thoughts, Poor Jokes, the podcast where meaningful conversations about mental wealth meet a healthy dose of humor. Each week, your hosts, Dr. Roxy Riefkohl-Cook and Dr. Stephanie Ellis, two of Houston's most respected doctors of counseling and psychology, coach you on the path to mental wealth. They will not just inspire, but entertain you while empowering you to elevate your life.
Welcome to Rich Thoughts, Poor Jokes, a mostly serious podcast about mental wealth where two psychotherapists
are here to teach you how to have security, freedom, and luxury in every area of your life. In this new series, we're going to discuss all things communication wealth, you might say, maybe relational wealth, of which communication is a foundational part.
Definitely. So I realized that this is, a pretty serious topic, an important topic, and we're going to have some really important information to share with you today about communication. But I also thought, well, why not lighten the mood to start?
Oh my.
You may not like this, but I thought it might be fun since our podcast is called Rich Thoughts, Poor Jokes, that maybe we start with a joke about communication.
That's such a good idea. Was that the joke just then?
No, but I thought, what would be even better than that is you tell the joke. So here you go.
Do you sometimes wonder, listener, what it is you've gotten yourself into? Same. A blonde, brunette, and redhead are stuck on an island 100 miles away from the mainland with no communication to anyone else. The brunette gets fed up with staying on the island with no one to save them, so she starts swimming toward the mainland. She gets about 30 miles in, gets too tired, and drowns. The redhead also gets too bored on the island and decides to swim for it. She gets 60 miles in and gets too tired and drowns. The blonde, now all alone, with no rescue in sight, decides to also attempt to swim for it. She gets 50 miles in, gets tired, decides she would rather wait for rescue, and swims 50 miles back onto the island.
Do you get it?
I get it. I'm the brunette.
Okay. Thank you for doing that with me. Okay. So before we start, I thought also it might be a good idea to maybe have people check in, or listeners check in, kind of do a self-assessment, right? To check in to see where they feel like they stand as a communicator. So I'm going to ask you to just do a quick self-assessment and on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, just rate yourself. How good of a communicator do you feel that you are?
And if you're American, I'm going to need you just to back whatever that number was up by 3 or 4. Because we have a tendency to think we're above average at everything. It's like 95% of people think they're an above average driver, but that's not how average works.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And we are also going to, hopefully, through this series, is to help you, though, bounce your number up in a realistic way, right? To decide and decipher what is it that's keeping you from really being the best communicator that you could be and make some adjustments.
All right. So this is, I want to define communication wealth for you guys. If you are new to us, when we talk about mental wealth, we introduced this a couple of weeks ago, but I'll just give you a little rundown. We said that when you have wealth, you have a few things that you don't have when you don't have wealth. One of them is a sense of safety or security. Yes. One of them is more freedom. You have more choices when you have wealth, and then you have the opportunity for luxury. And so as we bring that to your lives in every area of life, what does that mean in terms of communication? So let's start with safety security. Safety security, in a communication sense, I think means you're not wrecking out all your relationships. We want to have a good number of relationships in each area of life, whether that's work or home, friends, that kind of thing, in-laws, where the relationship feels safe. And since communication is the primary way that we develop and then maintain our relationships, that's an important part. In terms of freedom, and maybe you are this person, maybe you just know this person, not you, you're not this person, is who's the same in every situation. And so there's a way, I think sometimes people think what a good communicator means, and then they're like that in every relationship they have, that it doesn't work. So here, when I talk about freedom in the communication sense, I'm also, I think, talking about flexibility. That's going to give you more ways to move around in lots of different relationships, and then certainly in a relationship inside a single relationship, maybe multiple ways to be in that relationship. And then luxury. Maybe you then have relationships that feel really good to you. Maybe you are able to communicate with lots of different people. Maybe people even listen to you when you talk. Maybe you start a podcast. And so one of the other things, just to wrap up this communication wealth piece, is we like to also talk about how do we invest. And when we communicate well in relationships that are going well, we are investing in the moment in the future when maybe those relationships aren't going so well. So it's important, even if things are great, even if things are going well for you now across the board, this is still something that can benefit you because it might not always be that way.
Very well stated. I like to also think of communication wealth as like a dance. So we're inviting you to learn how to dance, which is two people, going back and forth, reminding ourselves that there is a sender and there is a receiver. So we're talking about communication wealth. And so now I'd like to maybe have our listeners think about, why should they even aim for this communication wealth?
Why does it matter?
Why does it matter?
Okay, I'm going to give you a second to think about that, audience, listeners. And then we'll just give you the answers. So, benefits to being a good communicator. Does this feel obvious? I think it's worth saying out loud. I mean, relationships matter, so communication matters, right? So we're going to improve and strengthen relationships across the board if we have good communication. Deeper connection in the relationships that we have, potentially even the foundation for building things like trust or respect. And I think we usually use words trust and respect in relationships that are like partnerships. But of course, communication wealth is going to help you at work. Absolutely. It's going to help you at play.
Collaboration all the way.
Problem solving, conflict resolution, all of these things really hinge on being able to communicate well. And so when we can do that, overall social and emotional health is going to be better because relationships are going to be better.
Yes. Listeners, that has to be something that you're thinking, oh, all of those things sound wonderful to me. How do we do this? Well, so as we started discussing all the different steps, and we are going to teach you or try to teach you how to do this and do this better or do this well. But we recognize that the best starting point is with listening. So we titled this first episode, Listeners Win.
Listeners win. Can I talk a little bit about that? About Please. Why we named it that? So, listeners win means we are usually not talking for our own benefit, right? We're saying things because we want other people to hear it. Often I'd say we want other people to agree with us, to persuade them. At minimum, we communicate our position on something or any piece of information so the other person knows it. And so we can see where they are, so they can respond to it. And so it seems like the thing to start talking about is, how do I communicate clearly? But I don't think it is. Because if you don't know the landscape from where the person who's listening to you, from where they're coming from, there's no way to craft a communication that is going to be very likely to land with them. And so you being as clear as you can possibly be to you is a maximum of half of the work, right? So since we want to persuade, or we want at least to communicate, we need to know the world into which we are trying to communicate. And that means listening first, right? And so it's kind of like, if you think about this in a business sort of way, almost like doing your market research. You want to sell this product. You want the thing that you are communicating to be understood.
Great analogy.
The first thing we want to do is we want to do a little market research and find out where the other person is before we try to land our message there. So,
excellent. So, as we go into this and we talk about if listening is super important, then we want to help you learn how to listen better. And so the very first step in this has to do with before you can listen to what is coming your way, you first have to package your own stuff. Okay. And so in order to do that.
I'm sorry, I just took a big deep breath because that is a doozy. I understand we told you we were going to tell you some practical things and we are about to tell you them. But this one, we're not saying something really easy right now.
Absolutely
right?
not.
Okay.
And even to move into teaching someone how to be able to do that, this also falls in the area of work that might need to be done, right? And we are, and we have, and we will continue to talk about if you have your own stuff that is, you realize you're not able to package and you can't put it away in order to listen or to communicate effectively, then we're going to encourage, and we will continue throughout this, probably all of our episodes, to encourage you to get some help in learning how to do that.
So if the thoughts inside your head are screaming, if the emotions inside you are too big, too loud for you to be able to hold them in one hand while you listen to the other person, we're saying that's the time.
Absolutely.
Right? That's one of the times to maybe get some additional help. Okay.
So the first step, and I think of this as, I call it stop, drop, and control your emotions, right?
How many of our listeners do you think are the exact right age to have learned stop, drop, and roll?
It's a great question.
Is that still the advice?
I have no idea.
Can we get a fact check?
We do. We need to find out. Do they still teach that in schools?
Okay, but I love it. I'm sorry.
That's
Go ahead.
Excellent. Okay. Stop, drop, and control your emotions if this is something that you know you need to do in order to communicate effectively. So stop as soon as you feel these emotions rumbling up that are negative, right? Drop the words for a minute. Don't drop the breathing, right?
Keep breathing.
Keep breathing. We know that you have to get oxygen to your brain, and actually focused breathing is something that we encourage often. And then this is a space and place where you can check in with your own internal story and find out what is it maybe that's coming up? What's the internal dialogue that you're telling yourself that is getting you elevated in a negative way that could possibly be keeping you from being able to communicate?
You know how sometimes you say something and then I go on a tangent about it?
Yeah.
How about I do that real quick?
Go.
Okay. So I was just thinking while you were talking, it is a really hard thing we're asking people to be able to do. And so one, I would say don't expect yourself to be able to do that right away. Mm-hmm. You might just now for the first time be getting an idea like, that's me. Oh, okay. All right. So if you just got that.
The self-awareness piece is the first piece.
That's the stop.
That's it.
Stop. And so then I'm thinking when you're in the middle of a conversation and you notice it come up, that's not going to be the first time that happens is not going to be the time that people can do this whole process. Right? So it might be that you notice it happened And then you try to do this stop, drop, and control after that conversation has fallen apart because it probably is going to, right? But it's still a worthwhile thing to do. Eventually,
We're practicing.
Yeah, eventually we might get to the point where we're in the conversation and we can do this process. But I will say, I don't think it's a realistic expectation to think you will ever, or you or me, will ever be able to do this instantaneously in the middle of a conversation. And so the gold standard of this is still going to include things like, ooh, something just came up for me. Can we just take a little minute?
Definitely. The stop. And again, back to this other piece, we recognize that if you immediately go into defensive mode, and this is your norm, this is an area that you would want to investigate and dig in. Yeah.
Oh, can we talk about that one day? Not today. A different day. Let's talk about
super
defensiveness
important.
and how it works.
Super important.
All right. Another thing that we have to be able to do to listen well is we need to believe the other person's worth listening to, I guess. Believe the other person knows something you don't know. Believe the person you're talking to. Well, hear me out. I actually like that language. Believe they know something you don't know, because you don't even need, I think, to believe they're right. You just need to know where they are. That's back at this listener's win piece is it's okay if you don't agree with them. It's okay to hear them without agreeing so that you can paint the picture of where they are so that your message is more likely to land, right? But they do know something you don't know because at minimum, they know what's going on inside them at the moment. So believe the other person knows something that you don't know. That helps you listen.
Excellent. So there is a doctor, Dr. Mark Goulston, and he talks, he has several books, but one of the books that he has is called Just Listen. And in his book, one of the things that he talks about also is seeing a person as being interesting, right? And so he says we really have to be more interested than interesting and focus on that. If you want to be a good listener, then your mindset has to start out that you're interested in what this person has to say. And he gives really great examples. One of them has to do with, getting Christmas cards or Christmas letters from people, and how some will, talk on and on about their lives, themselves, and so forth, and that's great, and it's for catching up and so forth. However, on an everyday basis, if we sit back and we just talk about ourselves and we're not interested in what other people are doing or have to say, then that's going to hinder our relationships. So.
I love that you brought that up, and I want us to talk. I think we will talk sometime in these next couple episodes about speech making. The Christmas card letter is like the ultimate speech. It just arrives in the mail, and nobody gets to talk back to you,
Right.
while they're reading it. But it brings up this other.
By the way, we love Christmas, so we're not degrading Christmas letters.
Dr. R loves Christmas letters.
Send me more.
Address any podcast letter to Dr. R, please. Something about the long Christmas letter too, though, gets me thinking. And this is another one of those sort of nerdy tangent things, which is that's too long. They're too long. They're too long. And they're certainly too long if you're in a conversation. So, nerd speak, working memory is this part of your memory that lets you have continuity as you go through the world. So it lets you remember the first part of the sentence by the time I get to the last part of the sentence, so the whole sentence makes sense. All right. And it's limited capacity sort of resource. So for most people, and if you're listening right now, you could probably do this. How many things could you remember to get at the grocery store without writing it down? Oh, you could just say it.
Oh, 5.
5. Maybe more if it's like part of a recipe or something like that, but just random things, maybe 5. Another way to do this is math. So can you add, just off the top of your head, can you add 17 and 34?
Yes.
Definitely. So what I'm getting at is that it takes a little work to do that, which I'm trying to do in my head as I avoid the question myself. But to do it, you have to hold a lot of digits in your head at one time. Doing that kind of math requires you to hold 7 or 8 kind of individual things in your mind at one time. And that's the place at which most people start having a little bit of trouble. So don't worry, you're fine. I'm fine
am I
too.
still supposed to be coming up with the answer?
It's okay. I'm fine too. I don't remember the question. So what we say is we say 7 plus or minus 2. So the vast majority of people can remember between 5 and 9 things at a go. Of course, there's some outliers. If you're one of those remembering 12 people, feel free to ignore the next couple of minutes. But what that means is when I get into a conversation with you, I already probably have some stuff I want to say. So if I've got, let's say, in a nice world, I've got 7 slots, and 3 of those working memory slots are filled up with the things I want to say to you, I don't have that much space for listening. That's part of what we mean when we say stop, drop, and control is, can I take those things that are inside my head right now fighting for space and put them off to the side so that I can listen to you with all the working memory I have, which is still a limited capacity resource.
You bet.
So it's not a great idea to say more than 4 sentences at a time. It's not a good idea to try to listen to more than 4 sentences at a time, but since right now you're the only person you can control, I'll say it's not a great thing to, other people won't be able to hear your messages as clearly if they're having to listen to a Christmas card letter's worth of information.
Look how you just brought that right back together. I like it. That was beautiful.
Did it? Okay, so
what you're saying is say less.
Say less. Say less. And eventually, either you can bring that person to therapy with you and your therapist can tell them to also say less. Or if you're very lucky, they might begin to tune in as you speak in smaller chunks, that they speak in smaller chunks. And that brings me to, I'm sorry, this is turning into a long one, but another piece of that is like your turn doesn't have to be over right then. You might have more than 4 things to say, but it's still okay to take a break, let the other person digest, and come back to the rest of your things. You're not just necessarily yielding the floor completely at that point. So don't be afraid to say less, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So another huge part of listening that we sometimes forget has to do with feedback, right? And it is a very important, crucial part. We need to know and ensure whether the person that is listening to us understands what we've said and vice versa, right? Because remember, we're going to keep coming back to this is a 2-way process. So this is something that we definitely are going to dig into a lot more as we teach these specific skills, but saying that feedback is a part of the listening process and being a winner in listening is huge. Time for the crown jewels.
Let's do it.
Crown jewel number 1. Communication is a 2-way, 2-part process.
Crown jewel number 2. Listeners win. Oh, and something I didn't say about listeners win earlier is winning in the context of a relationship sometimes means listening for the sake of the relationship. You might not want to live in the house with a big loser. So listeners win means you're more likely by listening both to kind of win the conversation, but you're also more likely to secure a win for the relationship.
And crown jewel number 3, be more interested than interesting.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us today. Be sure that you keep listening as we are going to teach you lots more pragmatic skills about, do you feel maybe as if your communication number on your assessment has improved just from today? Well, get ready. We're going to keep bumping you up that scale over the next couple of weeks. We appreciate you. Like us. If you like us, then like us. Share us.
Subscribe. And we're going to ask that you send in questions. And we are going to answer those questions for you in a 5th episode.
Thank you for tuning in to Rich Thoughts, Poor Jokes. We hope today's episode offered insight or possibility, a new perspective on your mental wealth journey. Tune in next week for more strategies to drive success. Please consider subscribing or sharing this episode with someone else because your mental wealth matters. And a few rich thoughts and poor jokes can help you live with abundance.